Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley reporting from Washington, D.C. So there you have some excerpts from this landmark address concerning Iceland, the International Monetary Fund, debt moratorium, the Tobin tax, and related issues, delivered by Birgitta Jónsdóttir of The Movement before the Icelandic Parliament in that crucial debate October 5th, 2009. This is political vision. This is a programmatic vision. This is eloquence. This is courage. This is initiative. This comes from a person who is not a professional politician, but indeed came into politics during that period of 3 to 4 months of continuous demonstrations, protests, and marches, and is now providing leadership where the exhausted parliamentary careerists who run the Icelandic government are incapable of taking a clear programmatic stand. And what she's got in this speech is already the basic form of what is necessary for Icelandic national salvation against the IMF, the British, and the Dutch. And I would call on listeners, especially in the United Kingdom and the Netherlands, let's open a front inside your countries in favor of Iceland. Stop the bullying of Iceland by the Anglo-Dutch lockstep alliance. Who wants to support the discredited policies of Gordon Brown and Miliband at the Foreign Office and the reactionary Balkenende regime there in The Hague? So I would also urge people in the United States, here where the Americans are supposed to support the underdog in contests like this, it's time to find out where the local British consulate, British embassy is, Dutch consulate, Dutch embassy, other institutions, and stage a protest. Send in some letters, make some phone calls, make them understand that the American public does not sympathize with this incredible bullying, this blackmail, extortion, gangsterism, protection racket being attempted by the Anglo-Dutch against a small country which has done nothing to offend or harm anybody at the top of the world. True, there was a deregulated banking system, but nobody knew better than Gordon Brown that the British banking system had been savagely deregulated under Thatcher and Major, and he took it further. He knew what he was dealing with. So don't turn around and tell us that somebody else should pay for the British regulatory regime. Certainly pay those depositors. They'll hardly notice it. It's a pittance compared to all the money that has gone to Royal Bank of Scotland, Lloyds Bank, Northern Rock, and the rest of the zombie banks there in Britain. So lay off Iceland. The overriding U.S. interest in this is that there should be stability and normal conditions of economy and business and social life in Iceland. This is impossible if you try to extort 1/2 of the gross domestic product. And let me add again, any notion of saying that Iceland will pay, but will pay 6% of the future growth of the gross domestic product is a charade. This is a position of weakness, and it's going to end badly. Alan Garcia, Peru, 1985, offered to pay 10% of the foreign exchange earnings of Peru, and that was a failure. Sounded good. Sounded like it was a moderate or middle position. It turned out to be poison. It got him all the problems of a debt moratorium, but none of the benefits. He was paying money into a rat hole. He was paying the interest, which kept mounting up through bankers' arithmetic in the background. It forced the imposition of domestic austerity, and ultimately it led to hyperinflation and to a dictatorship under Fujimori, along with other factors that contributed to that. So don't make Iceland go into hyperinflation and dictatorship, because who knows what comes out of that. Stability, solvency. Don't force Iceland to pay this debt, which has been invented. Again, the equivalent is if the British came to the United States with the Dutch tomorrow and said, guess what, you owe us $8 trillion because of some derivatives losses or something like that. What American would be willing to pay that? Nobody, I hope. But that's what they're trying to do to Iceland, coming and saying, guess what? You owe us one half of your GDP, $6 billion plus interest, at least 5.5%, and maybe more. We're now in the critical time for that. We're in the period of the next week or so, probably during the time this program is on the air. There's going to be some kind of a attempt by the British and the Dutch to ram that through the Icelandic Parliament. So let's tell the Icelanders our best wishes. Hang tough. Don't pay. Go for a debt moratorium. Follow in the illustrious footsteps of great nations like Mexico 1982, Brazil 1987, Argentina 2001. Argentina in particular, under Rodriguez Saad and under Nestor Kirchner, cut the foreign debt by one half, and that's not bad. They got the IMF off their backs, and I think Iceland can do better because they have a better social safety net. And remember, they never signed for any of these debts. These debts have been completely invented by the gang in London and The Hague. So that's the Iceland update. Stay tuned for more. And again, as we upgrade Tarpley.net, that will be reflected there. In the meantime, you can find the full text of Brigitte Jones-Dottier's speech at actindependent.org. It's up at the rents.com website and increasingly other sites around the Internet. Now, let's talk a little bit more about economics. The depression continues to deepen. The unemployment statistics this week, 550,000 new applications for jobless benefits. More than 500,000 people lost their job in the last week. That is a stunning reversal of the trend of that number, which had been down into the area of 300,000, 250,000, and so forth. It underlines the fact there is no recovery. There is no bottom. This is a bottomless world economic depression. No business cycle lifts you out of it. Nothing lifts you out of it. It comes in waves. We're now seeing the beginning of the second wave of this depression. Back in the 1930s, we had 3 waves, but we could have had more waves. And this time we're having a second one, but there's no guarantee that it will stop at 3. Rather, there's a guarantee that if you don't change policies, if you don't dump the Austrian school and the Chicago school, you will have bottomless depression. And that means New Deal methods. New Deal, of course, brought up to date in the obvious ways. We'll talk about that later in the show. There is an uptick in home sales of 2%. This is probably because the special $8,000 tax credit for first-time homeowners is about to expire. That was a palliative measure at best. Remember, we are now between 21 and 25% real unemployment. A lot of people have exhausted their unemployment benefits. The jobless benefits extension bill is stalled in the Senate, blocked by reactionary Republicans, as usual, free marketeers who think that if you give somebody an unemployment check, that's communism, that's socialism, it's probably terrorism by now. So it's time to get the unemployment benefits extended. The other thing we've got is tremendous weakness in the U.S. dollar. In this past week, the dollar has broken through 75 on the dollar index, and the dollar is headed down, crashing through 75 on its way to 70. Right now, today, if you want to buy a euro, you've got to come up with 1.54 U.S. dollars. That is close to an all-time low. It is certainly a 14-month low. 14-month low against the euro, 14-month low on the dollar index. Now, this, of course, increases the danger that we'll kick over into some kind of a dollar panic, leading to hyperinflation, because that's how it happens. We'll be back in a minute.